Due to its successes against Austria in the first two Silesian Wars and the 7 Years' War, the Prussian army is considered to have been Europe's best in the middle of the 18th century. Yet half a century later, the once mighty forces of Frederick the Great were crushed on the fields of Jena and Arstadt. The War of the Bavarian Succession would be the last war of Frederick the Great and would become the first stage in the rapid decline of Prussia. Known also as the Plum Scrum or the Potato War, today we look at some interesting military tactics that the Prussians and Austrians have employed in this one-year conflict. Let's get started. The armed conflict between Austria and Prussia over the Bavarian Succession from 1778 to 79 is one of the semi-forgotten wars of European history. For some, it is even an unknown manifestation of the power rivalry between the Habsburg monarch Maria Theresa and the Prussian King Frederick II. The reasons why the War of the Bavarian Succession has so far stood outside the mainstream of attention from historians and the public alike are many. It lasted less than a year, and no major battle was fought in its course. The fact that the Prussian soldiers were more occupied with foraging for food, especially potatoes and plums, than with warfare, caused the Prussian king himself to refer to it with contempt as the Potato War. And since it was ultimately decided not by soldiers on the battlefield, but by diplomats at the Round Table, the Austrian Marshal Ernst Gideon von Lauden saw it as a dog war waged by politicians. But if we're looking for the right way of calling this conflict, we believe the correct term would be a cabinet war. The conflict was triggered by the death of Maximilian III Joseph, the Elector of Bavaria, on December 30th, 1777. Maximilian III died without direct heirs, leading to a succession crisis. When a country like that is left with no successors, it can only mean trouble, and so many other territories and countries rush to try and get a piece of Bavaria. For example, Empress Maria Theresa of Austria and her son, Emperor Joseph II, sought to claim large parts of Bavaria. Joseph II aimed to exchange the Austrian Netherlands for Bavaria, thereby expanding Habsburg influence in Germany. But Charles Theodore Elector Palatine was the legal heir to the Bavarian throne, and although he initially agreed to cede parts of Bavaria to Austria, his cousin, Duke Charles II August of Zweibrücken, opposed the agreement, insisting on maintaining the integrity of the Wittelsbach territories. And lastly, Frederick II Frederick the Great of Prussia opposed the expansion of Austrian power. He saw Austrian claims as a threat to the balance of power in the Holy Roman Empire and to Prussian interests in Germany. While neither Austrian co-ruler Maria Theresa nor Prussian King Frederick the Great wished to go to war over the succession crisis, the conflict between the two rivals became inevitable in the spring of 1778. Joseph II sent 190,000 Austrian troops and 600 artillery pieces into Bohemia, Moravia, and Silesia, while Frederick responded by deploying 80,000 troops to the Bohemian border. He was soon joined by his younger brother Prince Henry of Prussia, who led an additional army of between 75 and 100,000 troops to the border. Between July 1778 and May 1779, the Prussian and Austrian armies entrenched in northern Bohemia and engaged in a series of raids and counter-raids, spending more time foraging for food than fighting. Hence, the war was nicknamed the Potato War. However, during the course of the war, each side lost 10,000 men, who were either killed, wounded, captured, deserted, or died of disease. Still, the better part of the conflict was played out through diplomatic negotiations, rather than military engagements. Both sides were cautious about escalating the conflict into a full-scale war. And it wasn't just Austria and Prussia who were trying to avoid war, but also other neighbouring territories, like France and Russia. In fact, these two countries were responsible for organising mediation between Austria and Prussia, and this mediation would result in the Treaty of Teschen, which was signed on the 13th of May 1779, which ultimately ended the Potato War. The terms of the treaty were fairly simple, with Charles Theodore being confirmed as the ruler of Bavaria. And while most of the country remained intact under Wittelsbach control, a small territory known as Innviertel was conceded to Austria. Have you learned about the Potato War in your history class? Have you heard of any other similar cabinet wars? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you enjoy learning fun facts and histories, make sure to hit the subscribe button and also click the bell icon so you can be notified each time we post new content. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again in our next video.